Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to The Wolf of Wall Street. This is a donation reward for Venom 0027, and I know pretty much nothing about this film. I assume based on the title it's about Wall Street. Okay, so probably a lot of money and shit. I know Leo DiCaprio's in it, I know Margot Robbie is in it, and I know Margot Robbie, I believe at least, gets naked in it. If I heard right, if this is the movie I heard about that before. Which is like, okay. But it's like, I don't know anything about the plot or the characters or anything else really about this film. I know that a lot of people liked it, I guess. I had not heard a lot about this movie when it was released, like right after it was released. I just, it never like came into the consciousness of the public that I followed on social media or elsewhere. So I don't really have much to say going into this. I have no idea what I'm going to think of it at all because I don't know anything about it. Though according to this, it is 3 hours long, so it's a pretty long movie. Not the longest I've seen or anything, but so it's definitely going to be an interesting one to sit through. I'm hoping it's at least very entertaining and exciting, considering I guess if it's about Wall Street, like we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But yeah, we're just gonna get this started and see what we've got in store. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked it up. Apparently this is based on a true story. Like, this is a, like, obviously exaggeration and everything, but of a real life situation. And that's really interesting. And again, obviously it was exaggerated. Obviously a lot of it was probably made up and whatnot, but I'm sure a lot of it was based on reality, at least the main gist of it. Like the company was real. The characters were real people with, like, I think only one of them had their name changed for the movie, which was Donnie's character. Um, and obviously, like, a lot of stuff was probably added to it at director Martin Scorsese's direction. A lot of the very specifics of what happened in certain scenes were probably added in or exaggerated or just completely made up on the spot. So this movie was good, but I wouldn't call it great or anything. I wouldn't call it like one of those really damn good films like from the past decade or so. I wouldn't call it like anything special, but it was good. It was enjoyable, that's for sure. Um, there was a lot more nudity in this than I thought there was going to be. Which, I mean, I don't necessarily mind. I've talked about before. I don't care if there's nudity in a film or stuff. It doesn't bother me at all or anything. Um, and it was very, very heavy with crime and drug usage and whatnot as well. but it never tried to make the main character come across as a good guy. It never tried to paint Jordan Belfort as the hero of the story. Basically, from the very beginning, it makes it very clear that these guys are bad people. And as the movie goes on, as you see Jordan's career and everything, and how just how much it goes downhill, just how he goes from this honestly a pretty normal person who's just trying to become a great stockbroker, and how it goes into him becoming this basically like crime lord almost with everything he's doing. It's it's pretty wild to see, and in the very loosest sense, it reminds me of Scarface. In the very loosest sense, that you have this normal guy who just tries to get into this business and ends up like taking it way too far and becoming this crime lord, and in the end facing the consequences. Though in Scarface, obviously he dies, and in this he gets 22 months in prison before turning his life around, it seems, becoming a motivational speaker and whatnot. Um, but either way, either way, this movie was very insane. It was insane. It was intense. There was a lot going on, and it's going to be impossible for me to recount all of it. Like I said, the main gist is you have this guy. He's just trying to make it on Wall Street, trying to become a good broker. He ends up working for this company, and kind of being brought into this kind of lifestyle, and being like trained in this lifestyle that was kind of, I wouldn't say went against his ideals or anything, but wasn't how he wanted to do things initially. He eventually, that business, that company goes out of business when the big crash happens, and so he ends up turning this starting at this little mini mall broker, and ends up turning that into an opportunity to create his own company from that becomes this huge empire, pretty much. Um, and he goes throughout these issues with marriages, with friends, with having to hide his money in a Swiss account and everything. The most stereotypical shit possible, a Swiss bank account. Um, he has to deal with FBI agents, and eventually he can't escape getting getting arrested and even put in jail. He does escape real jail time because he could have spent upwards of 20 years, maybe even more, and he escapes that by ratting out his friends and coworkers and shit. And it's like, again, throughout the entire film, you see very clearly that Jordan is not a good guy. And like even during that scene where he's like giving this speech about like that he's going to be leaving and all, but then chooses not to. Like even when he's talking to the woman, we find out he gave her $2,500 when she only asked for 5,000 to help her out and everything. It's like, yeah, it's a nice thing, but bad people can do nice things, believe it or not. Most of the world's worst people have done good things for people, especially if it gets them to be loyal to them. So yeah, that's not really a argument to try and like side with him. um, but yeah, throughout the film, like I said, we see a lot of insanity. We get to see a lot of drug use, a lot of drug use, because as Jordan puts it in the film, he's addicted. He's an addict. He loves drugs, and he even lists off at the beginning all these different drugs and all his uses for them and whatnot. We see a lot of drinking throughout the movie. We see, again, a lot of nudity and sex. We see a lot of endangerment and a lot of just abuse and even bigotry brought in. And even the telltale signs of bigotry, a bigot trying to uh, protect their image by saying, oh, I can't be a bigot because yada, yada, yada. Um, and you just come to hate these characters so much. They're absolute scum. Not just Jordan, but Donnie, all of them. They are just the worst of the worst. And you see certain scenes in this where it's just like you just absolutely despise them. Like the scene where he's trying to take his kid and leave and he slaps his wife, he punches her in the gut, and he endangers this young girl, like what, 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old. He endangers her life and everything, and it's like, fucking hell. That kind of shit is horrifying. The the abuse, the domestic abuse, but also putting a young child's life in danger like that because you're a miserable piece of shit who can't understand that you are the reason all these people are like leaving you and turning away from you. Like throughout the film, he constantly talks about how he's been both poor and rich, and he would much rather be rich, and that he basically goes under the idea that money gets you anything, that money brings you happiness, and yet in the end, money brought him everything but. Money ruined his life. And it's, you could say it's more the pursuit of money, and yeah, to a degree, yes, but it still goes against his entire ideal that he was trying to tout. And it's like, yeah, having money can be nice. Having some fancy food, a nice car, a nice house, well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with wanting nice stuff. But if you let it control your life to a point where you become so like obsessed with it that you just turn into a horrible person in every other facet of your life, then it's not worth it. It's not. But again, the film does not try to make him out to be a good guy. It does not try to even make him sympathetic. The movie makes it very clear he is a piece of utter trash. And I have to respect the film for at least like admitting that the main character is that horrible. And so it's like whenever you do see all this stuff going wrong, you're actually kind of cheering for it. You're actually kind of rooting for the FBI and them to take him down. And when it finally does happen, it's like this, it's triumphant. Like when they're playing the triumphant music during all of that and all, it's awesome because it's like you see this horrible piece of shit get his comeuppance, and it's like you see how his entire lifestyle, his ideals, his beliefs about money and the pursuit of richness and all has just led to his downfall. And that's what I think this movie definitely does best. It's not like saying that again that wanting money or wanting nice things in life is bad. It's saying that the obsessive pursuit of richness, of wealth, is bad. It's saying that not only the obsessive pursuit of wealth, but the obsessive need to retain that wealth. It's very much, honestly, it's very much a warning for people to not become obsessed with that kind of shit. And I feel like people like Jeff Bezos might need to watch this film because it's very much anti-billionaire, very much anti-billionaire. Um, there were some really great name actors in here. Besides Leo, you had like Matthew McConaughey, you had Robert Reiner, you had so many really high quality actors and actresses, and even ones I didn't know did fantastic jobs. Like the actress who played the first wife did a really great job. Um, let's see here. Da, 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 da. Trying to find the specific. Yeah, that was Christine Milioti who played Teresa. Uh, and just all these other random characters, like all of the different friends and employees at the place, like they were really well acted. Yeah, you have the big names in this. You have Leo, you have Jonah, you have Margot, you have Kyle Chandler, John Bernthal, Rob Reiner, John Favreau. You have the big names in this, of course. And of course, they're the ones the movie focuses on. Of course, they're the big characters. But again, at the same time, you have all these other supporting roles, all these other supporting actors who do such a phenomenal job and make it feel like this movie is coming to life. One of my biggest complaints, though, moving on to a negative here, is the soundtrack. Outside of the one song that plays near the end, the really happy, fun, triumphant song. Aside from that, the music was good. It's good music. It was fucking terrible for this film. Outside of that one song, all the other music, even despite being good music, even the Foo Fighters song, which I love Foo Fighters, but it was fucking terrible for the song and for the scenes that it played at. It felt completely out of place. It felt like, oh, let's just take some popular music and just throw it in there. Because why the fuck not? Let's not even worry about whether or not it actually fits the scenes, whether or not it makes sense, whether or not it comes across as natural or not. No, let's just throw it in there because it's popular. It did not work most of the time. 99% of the time. Again, only that one song worked. The direction and camera work was phenomenal, but that's not really a big surprise. It's a big name Leonardo DiCaprio film. It's directed by Martin Scorsese. It's like, yeah, you're gonna have phenomenal shots and all. Um, the just the lighting on a lot of scenes was really great. Like especially for a lot of indoor scenes, it really just worked, in my opinion. Um, and it was again, it was fun. It was it was insanity, blatant insanity, balls to the wall, nuts the entire time. But it was entertaining. It was fun. And as for the pacing, honestly, the pacing could have been a little better. I feel like it was definitely too long. It did not need to be 3 hours. You could have shaved off half an hour. There were some scenes that felt like just they weren't really that necessary, or that they were too that the scenes were too long. They could have been cut down. Um, it just felt like the movie could have been cut down a bit. It did not need to be 3 hours long. um, but yeah, it's like otherwise, like I did enjoy it. Again, I wouldn't call it like one of the best films or anything. No, not even of the past decade. Not even close. No. And maybe that comes down a lot to personal preference as well. But again, I very much did enjoy it. And yeah, I think a lot of that comes down to the actors' performances. Like, I'm not a big fan of Jonah Hill. I don't know why. Something about him has always irritated me in his performances. He always comes across as very whiny and unlikable. But it worked for this movie. It fit for this film and for his character. Leo is always just a god on the camera. He is one of the best actors without question. So it's like I expected him to be phenomenal, and he was phenomenal. Matthew McConaughey, for as little screen time as he actually had in this film, was great. Margot Robbie was absolutely a star. like I love Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, but like seeing her, like I don't think I've seen a lot of her other roles. So seeing her in this was really just a pleasant, just not really surprise, but it was just really pleasant for me to get to see her in something else, to where she's like really getting to show her acting chops in a movie that's more dramatic for her character. Like, yeah, there's a lot of comedy in this film. There's definitely a black comedy aspect to it, but there's also a lot of drama, and especially surrounding her character. So, um, and yeah, honestly, admittedly, she's hot in this film. Not she's just hot. Margot Robbie's very attractive, but she really sells that in this film. She does, and she makes it work. But she also comes across as a likable character. She's one of the few likable characters in this movie. She's one of the few characters who you actually kind of root for, especially by the end when she dumps his ass. She's one of the few characters who's not this absolutely terrible piece of shit. Like she's not the best person. She has her issues too, but she's not as bad as almost anyone else in the film. She's one of the only like actually likable characters. And I did like her. I did enjoy her role. I did enjoy her character, and like I said, she was a star in this film. She really shined. Um, I haven't seen John Bernthal in a lot. Like I know that he was in Punisher, but I never saw it. And I did see him in The Walking Dead, but I also despised his character in The Walking Dead. So it's like I didn't have much of any notable stuff to go off of that would actually like really endear me to his acting. So I really don't have too high of an opinion on his role here. Plus, he wasn't that big of a character, to be honest. Um, yeah, I did enjoy this though. There is a lot of like really fun, wild, sexy stuff. There is a lot of intense, dramatic, and really heavy stuff in this too. And there was a lot of stuff that just shocked me. It seemed to almost come out of nowhere, like the entire gay orgy thing that happened. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? Um, and again, nothing wrong with having that in there. It's just it just came literally out of nowhere in the middle of the movie, and it's like, whoa. And unfortunately for that poor guy, homophobia came after from those assholes. Just that pisses me off. Any kind of bigotry like that pisses me off. But again, at least the bad guys got their comeuppance. So there's that. Um, yeah, it was just a wild, insane, and dark and horrible and intense, funny, entertaining film. And honestly, I would have never seen this without a donation reward. I would have never seen this film, mostly just out of lack of knowledge about it at all, or lack of any kind of interest. Because as I stated in the pre-thoughts, I know pretty much nothing about stocks and Wall Street and all that. Like that stuff, it's not just that it means nothing to me. It is so far beyond my realm of knowledge that it confuses the shit out of me. So it's like I wouldn't watch a movie about that kind of thing normally. But I'm glad, Venom, that you chose this as your donation award, because I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's a good movie. I had fun with it. And I want to see more stuff like this, stuff that I wouldn't have necessarily checked out otherwise. Like I feel like a lot of you might be a little afraid to suggest certain things because you're afraid that I might not like it or whatnot. And don't be afraid. If you have something you'd love to see me react to, or a movie that you just really love and would love to see my thoughts on it and everything in a reaction, feel free to suggest it. Don't worry about whether or not you think I'll like it, because I've been surprised by so many films, this one included. Because by all intents and purposes, this should be a movie that I wouldn't like. You would think this would be a film that would completely turn me away, and I thought that this would be a film that would turn me away. That's why I never watched it. That's why I never even decided to check on what it's about. But I ended up actually really enjoying it. I wouldn't say I love it or anything. Again, I've seen much better, especially in this last decade. But still, I really did enjoy it. I thought it was really good. And yeah, so thank you, Venom, for choosing this as your donation reward. And tell me in the comments below what you thought. And everyone, tell me in the comments below what you thought of The Wolf of Wall Street. Uh, just tell me your thoughts on the characters, the events, all of that, and if any of it bothered you as much as it did me, because there were certain things in it that really bothered me. Ugh. Again, especially that part at the end, the bigotry, but the bigotry, a lot of the just heinous things they did, but especially that part at the end where he physically abused her and punched her. When he punched her in the stomach, that bothered the shit out of me. That pissed me off, and it scared me, and it just I didn't like it. And when he put the kid in danger, my God. Again, that kind of shit just really gets to me. So it's like, but again, that was the point. It was supposed to make you feel angry about that. So it succeeded. But yeah, tell me your thoughts down below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.